as you guys are aware, I'm sure, we are SkyCivic. We obviously applied for the Community Initiatives Innovation Cohort. And to begin with, just as you guys introduce yourselves, I think it's a good thing if we tell you who we are, so we're not just a couple of disembodied heads on your screen. So I'm Arnav. I am the Director of Marketing over here at SkyCivic. I have about four years of experience now working in the chatbot space, so conversational tech. I'm sure you've heard about it before. It's a bit of a buzzword in the world of tech, especially in the private side. And I've primarily worked with private companies in helping them improve their marketing campaigns using chatbots. But increasingly over the last year, Levi and I have been working together to bring that same tech to the government space, and helping governments enhance their outreach efforts using chatbots. And just a little bit about myself, because I feel like it's important to know where Levi and I are coming from and why we wanted to apply for this cohort. Growing up, I've lived in big cities all my life. I'm originally from India, and as you might know, we have a lot of really large cities over there. So I've lived in 10 million plus cities my whole life, moving around a lot. I've also lived in Tokyo and Singapore. And what I found moving around when I was a kid was that community initiatives, especially ones run by local cities and local libraries, were a great way for me to feel more engaged with the community when I first moved there, because moving is obviously extremely difficult, especially when you're a kid. And when you move to a place, going for community initiatives at places like the library or ones that are organized by the city, local community, are a great way to feel welcome in a place and actually start to make friends. So that's why this initiative stood out to me, and that's the sort of background I'm coming from approaching this problem. Levi, do you want to?
Yeah, so I'm Levi Wirtz. I came from the completely opposite experience as far as community cities go. So I grew up and have lived in Montana in this tiny town called Belgrade. It's mostly like an industrial town. We used to have a mill. It closed down. A bunch of people moved away. Pretty typical rural city story. So I have always lived in the country, and it's kind of an interesting space to be in, because when you're not in the city, you're removed from a lot of those opportunities, and then neighbors and your close community are really your entry point into these types of experiences. So we have a very tiny library, and they really didn't do that many initiatives. But as a kid growing up, those were the places we would go to, and that's how we would engage with the community. But it was much more like a word of mouth type of thing with a very low budget, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. And that experience definitely sticks with me moving forward into this cohort, because I want to, I'm very passionate about increasing that opportunity. So our solution is very rooted in not just small town, but small to city thought process of how can we just help everybody be more engaged and part of this great social infrastructure that we can build. Professionally, I've worked in government. I've been a public servant for I was in the military for 5 years, but then also as a public information officer for the state of Montana for 3 years. And that's really where I started this kind of path towards figuring out another way to communicate in government, and which eventually led to chatbots and really this company because of the success of chatbots in government. And so that's a little bit about us. If you hear a chainsaw in the background, I apologize. A bunch of trees fell over on our little farm, and instead of chopping them down, a friend is helping right now because I'm on this meeting. But yeah, so that's that. We're going to move forward about SkyCivic as a company, and really what we're at and where we're thinking is we're an AI, artificial intelligence and automation startup. And what we really do is we automate the interaction between government and citizens through chatbots.
And we'll get to what
we've seen
those mean in a little bit. We have a demo.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually when we tell people that, they just kind of stare at us blankly, which is a totally fair reaction to those statements. But we take information as it is currently displayed on basically on government websites or other digital information portals, and we make it much more engaging, much more interactive, and much easier for the citizen to consume and understand. And with that, we see just a really good opportunity to help initiatives, to help everybody in this cohort and beyond engage their community better and offer those initiatives in a much more intuitive and easy to access way, which is a big part of what we'd like to talk about today.
So the way we approached the problem when we saw the problem statement on the ELGL website was we viewed the issue of getting people to attend community initiatives, getting people to participate in them as a communication problem fundamentally. And as you might have gleaned from our previous slide and from our intros, that's our focus as a company. We're really focused on helping you guys communicate better with your citizens. So Levi, do you want to move to the next slide? And the way we think about it is that there is this sort of breakdown in the engagement layer between city governments, county governments, libraries, and the citizens that they serve. So you guys have all of these amazing initiatives, and we know this because we actually went through all of your websites and took a look at some of the initiatives that you guys are running. And I'm sure that you also have citizens who live in your communities who really want to participate in these initiatives, who have interest in these initiatives. But the issue arises in the engagement layer in between your agencies and those citizens. So essentially what's happening right now is you have these initiatives, there is this supply and there is this demand, but they're not meeting in the middle. And that's where we come in the picture. Levi, you wanna, and the reason for this, the underlying reason for this that we have identified is that your websites, your web pages are fundamentally broken. And this is a theme that we've come across a lot in government. I'm sure Levi can attest to this, having worked in government. I'm sure you dealt with your fair share of government websites that weren't too great to interact with. And the three issues that we sort of see to be prevalent in government websites, recurring problems, are moving from the bottom to the top. They're unintuitive. So when you land on a website, it's not clear where resources are, where information is. If you land on a website and you want to find out about the community initiatives that are being offered, if you want to find out information about those community initiatives, sometimes it can be like a maze getting there on a government website. You can use a search, but in a lot of cases that search as well doesn't work too well, and you end up sort of navigating this maze to find the information that you want. And then once you actually do find the information, that leads us to the second point on this slide. The pages that you're interacting with are they're not particularly engaging. In a lot of cases, it feels like they're built more as a sort of guide for the employees to direct citizens to information than for a website that citizens have to interact with on their own. And in practice, what that means is you're dealing with websites that are extremely text heavy. And the unfortunate reality of 2019 is that most people just don't have the attention to go through that much text. And people aren't going to go through all the content that you're showing them on your web pages. Because they're just not finding it engaging enough. And related to that point, the third and final point, the one at the top of the slide, is the fact that these pages in a lot of cases are mobile unoptimized. And Levi can probably speak to this better, but in a lot of government websites, what we've noticed happens is that the pages, not only are they text heavy, but they aren't great to use on mobile. And as I'm sure you're aware, a lot of your citizens are using mobile phones to interact with your pages. And what that looks like in practice is they're pinching to zoom on pages. We've all been there before. You land on a web page and you have to sort of like pinch on your phone screen to zoom in and actually read the text. And in a lot of cases, governments are using PDFs on their websites to convey information, which again is not a great way to interact with information on a phone, especially because again, you're pinching to zoom to read text. So yeah, those are the three sort of hurdles that people have in actually getting the information that they need to participate in a community initiative. And the way we like to phrase it is that these three hurdles, these issues with your webpage, make it extremely difficult to take a citizen from interest to participation. So that's where the breakdown is in that supply and demand. There are people who are interested. There are these initiatives that they should be participating in, they would really enjoy participating in, but there's a breakdown in bringing that interest, getting that interest to follow through into participation. Levi, do you want to move to the next one? Yep, and that's
Sure.
where we come into the picture. Do you want to take over?
Yes, so now we're actually going to jump into the demo of the product and show that. We just really wanted to frame how we're thinking about this, where we're coming from. To give a little more background into what I was doing, when I first started at my job as a public information officer, I was expected to also work on the website that we had, which it fit all of these that we just talked about, and then some. It was a very bad page, actually very bad website of 30 plus pages, and it was one of the most trafficked websites in Montana, and it was terrible.
And it was the DMV, right?
So, and it's the DMV, yeah. So I worked for the DMV, and it's fundamentally one of those places that everybody can relate to as just being a bad experience all around. From digital to in-person, it's just has that stereotype. So really what I did professionally is I wanted to change that whole narrative. And we'll talk a little bit more about what happened when I decided to change that narrative towards the end, talking about the results that we've been able to eventually accrue with chatbots in government. But for now, I'm going to drop out of this presentation and I'm going to open up a quick demo for you all. So as you can see, this is Portland, Maine, their website. Whoever's on, hopefully they're on here and participating in this. But we whenever we do a demo of our product, we like to go to somebody's website and show what it actually looks like on their website, because I think it's a big part of what we offer. First and foremost, I landed on this website basically with the assumption that I'm a new citizen and I wanted to find an initiative. And it took me about 5 minutes of really hard looking. I tried the nav bar, I tried scrolling down the website, and I tried the search. And the search is actually what eventually found an initiative for me, and it was in a PDF. And the initiative specifically was neighbors applying to help shovel elderly sidewalks during the wintertime. So a really cool initiative, but to find it was really hard. It was a PDF on my phone, not engaging at all, and it was really hard to read through. And then at the very bottom on the second page of the PDF was the contact point to start the process of signing up. So if you can see right down here, this is our widget that we have placed over the top of the website for this demo purpose. One thing to note is that since I already loaded the page and I've already been on here, this call out isn't here, but we have a call out that pops up and directs the citizen to this widget and talks about what it does. So this one specifically says, "Are interested in community initiatives? I can help." And it also chimes at them when they land on the website. So we try and direct their attention right to this widget to get them into this experience as fast as possible. So I'm gonna have to move this box real quick. As you can see, this is really, this is our solution, what it looks like to the citizen. So it mimics a mobile device, and it is just like having a chat conversation with somebody. So as we mentioned in our proposal, one of the things that we proposed was a quiz that citizens could take to help determine which initiatives actually align with them and help that run or increase participation with the citizen. And the idea is it's almost like a Facebook quiz. It's easy, it's fast, it's engaging, it's conversational, and it asks some simple questions to determine which initiatives might fit them best. So I'm just going to drive through this really quick. As you can see, it's very simple. There's these, multiple questions, or one question, multiple answers that will help us determine if they are capable of doing a certain initiative. So this one, if you haven't figured it out yet, we're driving them towards the helping shovel sidewalks initiative. So there's a qualification question here. If they're not capable of doing physical activity, we're not going to offer that as an initiative because the participation rate will drop off for somebody who cannot or is unwilling to shovel. So we have that qualification, and then what we will do is search the initiatives and pull up ones that match best the quiz they've taken. So in this case, we're using an actual initiative off of the website to help shovel. Now, what I talked about on that PDF was it was really hard to sign up for it, and that's a big part of the layer and the disconnect that you'll drop if you get somebody to work hard enough to find that initiative in the first place, which you're already at a small percentage. If you make the sign up process to that equally difficult or even more difficult, you're losing even more of the percentage that was willing to work that hard to find it in the first place. Before I go to the sign up though, I want to show this other option where we can drive them to more information, and as you can see, it's much more digestible. It's short message bubbles. They're timed to allow them to read it, and it doesn't get overwhelming. It's simple to digest. Now, if you were on the website and you started scrolling down, you'd see all the stuff that the website offers and how overwhelming it is, especially to somebody new to the area, how overwhelming all those options are and all that text and services. It's hard for them to find what they want. So our whole solution is to guide people quickly to the things that they are interested in and help them interact with them in a seamless manner. So as a citizen, I've looked at this. I'm like, yeah, this looks like something I really want to participate in. I want to sign up. Now, instead of asking me to email this representative or reach out, our solution makes it much easier to collect that. And it's actually, like right here, here's a great engagement point, right? It actually calls me out by name. Thanks, Levi, instead of the typical submission forms that you may see on government and other places just say thank you, and they don't even respond to you as a person particularly. All right, and so now I'm going to do this real quick, taking my email and my phone number.
It's also worth noting, while Levi is filling this out, that we started off this flow with the quiz portion of the chat interaction. But say you have your link to your community initiatives written somewhere in your office, or people are sharing information about this community initiative with their family and friends. We actually create comprehensive chatbots that will jump off right at the information point, so at the learn more point, where it sort of walks people through the common queries that are there, so that people don't actually have to go through that quiz. However they're reaching the chatbot, we'll drop them into the right part of the conversation, depending on where they come from.
Yeah, that's a thank you for that, Arnav. That's a good point, and it's really important that our overall solution is very much rooted in the citizen experience, and that means that we take a lot of time thinking about how we curate their interaction with our solution. So we wouldn't want to do like what he was mentioning. We wouldn't want them to go through this every time if they're not interested, but it is a great way to capture them initially as an initial portion of this. And then the last part of this is offering ways to re-engage them. So they've signed up, their information went to Linda. If Portland, Maine is here and you know Linda, if this were an actual solution, she would have had an email hit to her government her government email with this entry immediately, and basically in real time, she would have a sign up to that that initiative, and she could start matching them to the people to an elderly person in the neighborhood that that matches them. And we can collect a lot of other information like addresses, which they can select and use through Google Maps API, so they can enter their address and it'll auto-populate it. They can select it on the map. You can use things like that to help determine maybe the easiest person for them to get to make it easier for the citizen, things like that. And so this re-engagement side, this is the next step, is offering notifications. So what we're using is web notifications. That's very simple to sign up. It's not asking for their name and email and whatnot. It just works off of the device. So if they're on their mobile device and they say, yes, I'd like to receive notifications, that's it. They allow the notifications, and then as the you can do multiple things with this. You can either push a notification when the event's about to start. So for libraries that have events out there, like Altoona, we noticed a few, like 1, 2, 3 Play With Me is an event that comes up a lot on their calendar. We could push notifications to them saying, this starts in 1 hour. Would you like directions to the library? They click on it, opens Google Maps, takes them right there. So these little subtle touches in the overall experience is how we increase the participation and make sure the people that sign up will then follow through with engagement. And when they follow through with engagement, there's a second step to this, and that's collecting feedback and understanding how the initiative, how it worked for them, their overall experience. All of that is really important information that you want to capture because it helps you understand if your initiatives are successful, how the citizen perceives the initiative, not necessarily how you think they reacted with it, but their physical feedback. So I don't know if you heard that ding, maybe not, maybe. I just had a notification pushed to my computer because I had signed up. So this one is asking for feedback for the 1, 2, 3 Play With Me. So say I went to 1, 2, 3 Play With Me with my young child, and I finished the event, and an hour later I get a notification on my phone, and it drops them into another chat conversation. It makes it very simple to collect the feedback. And it's really a seamless experience. I clicked on the notification on in this case, my desktop, and I'm dropped right here on the landing page. And this is the second way that we provide our product, not just as a widget on a website, but also as a standalone landing page, which is fantastic. So if you're running social media campaigns and you want to drop them on something, landing pages are really hard to get engagement for big private companies. And when we talk about government, that the chance of actually getting an engagement past that is significantly lower. We found that conversational landing pages are much more successful at that because they just drive the need straight through. So we're not playing around with anything. We're not trying to get them to click any buttons. We're just straight to the point. How would you rate your overall experience? And we have some different options for how this is appearing and whatnot. And important note, if they rate it poorly, we can actually see that rating and move them to content or the continued conversation that address the fact that they were not satisfied with the initiative. So instead of just say they rate it 1 star, instead of saying great every time, right? Because it wasn't great, they didn't have a good experience. We should be addressing that fact instead of just giving them this generic response every time. So we have the ability to actually react to the way they're rating things and acknowledge that, which is really important for government. And one thing that I learned specifically as a public information officer, citizens want to be heard. There's just no way typically for them to express how they feel about something and know that anybody is even paying attention in the first place. And they're pretty warranted in that respect. So once again, this is just a really quick demo. So we're only going to rate 2 experiences and collect 2 feedbacks here. This can be as complicated or in depth as you would like. It's very simple for us to increase this. But the point is it's quick and easy for the user. So you can actually ask more detailed feedback and it doesn't feel as cumbersome.
Right.
And
I
I'm
always
going to
find that a good way to think about how these bots are working are in the context of your community initiatives. Imagine if you could speak to every single person who had interest in your community initiatives. It would probably help increase the engagement and the actual participation in those initiatives. But the thing is that a lot of government agencies, a lot of private companies as well, are understaffed. You can't feasibly have a conversation with everyone in your community. And what we're essentially doing is we're taking what you would say if you were talking to someone in person, and we're automating that so that you can actually have a conversation with every single person before they participate in the initiative. So recommending initiatives to them while they're participating in it. So sending them the notifications to tell them where the location is or whether it's delayed, and after as well to get their feedback on it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. It feels like you're talking to somebody, and that's from our experience. Government struggles with what I call the resource gap. It's the difference between the people and the resources you have and the people and the resources you need. And there's always this big gap in government, and it's been the thing that's been difficult to solve. Just generically, it's just hard to understand how to close that resource gap. And from our active deployments, we've actually seen a significant close in resource gap because we're essentially giving these government agencies 1,000 new employees that can interact with every single citizen, except it's always a consistent interaction and always a successful interaction. You see nothing ever just stops. It always moves forward. It always keeps driving the interaction, the conversation. So moving back to the feedback, this is one that I've seen come in a million, maybe not a million times, but hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. The feedback that we get through this experience from actual citizens is it's fast and easy, quick and easy, simple. If you decide to implement our solution, you will see a lot of this, that people really enjoy the ease and the speed that this is experienced. So then here's just another example, rate the value of the activity itself. And in this case, some detailed feedback might be the person shovels Mr. Smith's sidewalk, and Mr. Smith comes out and chats with them every other day about, or whenever it snows, about the community and stuff like that. So you might actually get information like that from your citizens. They say, you know, it was great. I went to do this just to help out, but I ended up interacting with Mr. Smith a bunch, and it really gave me a great understanding of our community and whatnot. We also give them the option to skip, though. If they don't feel like submitting their feedback, we're not going to force them to do it. Ratings are really helpful just on their own. So I'm just going to skip there to move this on. When this finished, so this is the end of this feedback funnel, a report just actually dropped on my phone. You can't see it, but I just got the report of this interaction straight to my phone almost immediately. I can look at it and see what that citizen experience was with the initiative, and that helps you have a much better understanding of the effectiveness of initiatives, what people are thinking about them, so you can make policy-driven decisions in the future based off of that feedback, which is very, very important. Also, with our web notifications, we're not going to continue pushing that. You can't even see them on my computer, but the other thing to note is we can re-engage the citizen with those notifications. If they participated and they enjoyed it, next year we can send them and say, hey, do you want to still do you want to schedule that notification to say it's coming up again? Do you want to participate again? It makes it much easier for them to continue their engagement with their community instead of forcing them to come back to the website, sign up all over again and whatnot. We just send them a notification. Would you like to participate again? They click yes, boom, they're in and they're re-engaging with it. We can also send them initiatives that are similar to the initiative that they just recently engaged in, which is then pushing out the possibilities of it's really just leveraging your citizens' interest to make sure that they get the most chance to participate in the initiatives that are available. Okay, I'm going to jump back to to our slide presentation again.
So through this second half of the slide presentation, we're going to touch upon like some of the stuff we've already alluded to in our demo. Because a lot of you guys might still be wondering why our chatbot based approach is better than your regular website. What is it about shifting from the traditional paradigm where you have these web pages with a lot of text in them to the chatbot paradigm where someone's actually chatting with you guys to get that exact same information? Because at the end of the day, they're achieving the same thing. They're just doing it in different ways. So a good way to think about that is to look back at the problems that we were talking about earlier. So the first one, government websites are unintuitive. Well, with a chatbot, you don't have that problem. With a chatbot, you don't have, Levi, do you want to move to the next slide?
Sure.
So with a chatbot, you don't really have that problem because the chat interface is quite intuitive. I'm sure a lot of you guys as well, all of you guys probably use regular texting on a day-to-day basis. So you're using apps like iMessage, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp to talk with your friends and family. And as a result, when we showed you the chatbot, you probably knew exactly how to continue with the conversation. And the way I like to think about it is that I actually use, I use chat to talk to my grandparents, my 80-year-old grandmother, my 80-year-old grandfather. They're still able to use chat. They know how to use chat. And even I know how to use chat, and I'm way younger than they are. So by using a chat interface, you're using an interface that's intuitive to a wider range of people. You're sort of accounting for the fact that everyone in your community doesn't have the same technical knowledge that sort of the average person or an expert might have. And you're making it as easy as possible for as many people as possible to actually get the information that you want to get to them. Now, the second issue is the fact that these your websites are unengaging right now. Government websites in general are unengaging right now, and chatbots don't face that problem because instead of sort of confronting people with this huge wall of text and images where they have to go through and figure out where everything is and what's important, they are actually being guided through the process by the chatbot. So they're getting a little bit of information at a time. It's in a digestible chunk, and then they control the direction they want to go in. They click on learn more to get more details, or they click on sign up to start the sign up flow. So first of all, they're in control of the entire interaction. So that makes them more likely to read what's on the screen because they have chosen what's going to appear on the screen. And second, it's also in these bite-sized chunks. So it's a lot less to read at a given time. And of course, the third issue with government websites as they are right now is that they're mobile unoptimized. So this is the idea that you're pinching to zoom, that you're using a lot of PDFs. And with chat interfaces, you don't face that problem because chat interfaces are, the way we like to think of it, the only mobile specific interface available on the internet. Because I don't know how familiar you guys are with web development, but when you make a regular website, you're making it on your laptop screen, which is large. It has a lot of screen real estate on it. And then you squeeze it down for the mobile screen, which is sort of like trying to empty out a bucket into a teacup. And with a chatbot, you don't face that problem because when you think about apps like iMessage or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, they were built from the ground up for people on their phones. They were built so that you could talk to people from your phone through texting. So they are built for people to use on that small screen, and as a result, they're optimized from that. And then when you make the jump to desktop, you're just working with more screen real estate. So you don't face the same problem of trying to present more information with less space. You actually have a concise amount of information that you have more space to present with. So that sort of gets around that issue of mobile optimization. And there's an added bonus, which is that of measurability. And I know that Levi feels passionately about this, so I'm going to let him take over for this one.
Yeah, so a big part of what our solution is really fundamentally grounded around is collecting the data that we are of all these interactions and what is actually going on. So we have an in-house data analytics that we collect based off of chat metrics that are just really easy to look at and determine if things are successful, what's going on, what are the interaction rates on the chatbot, what are the successful goals. So we can set goals at any point and track them, their success rate of that. Every single conversation, whether it's partially, so if they decide to drop off the chat or they follow through to completion, we record every single one. So you can audit everything that's going on at all times, which you cannot say for a web page whatsoever. You can tell when they drop on the page, you can tell maybe what they click, but you're not really seeing what it was that broke that experience for them. Like they tried to look at the text, where in the text did it confuse them, and why did they drop off? With a chat, with our chat conversation and our record of it, we can see exactly where the issues are. If maybe the language to describe the initiative isn't very clear, and we start seeing drop off from that, we can quickly identify and say, okay, this isn't worded right, and this is confusing people. Let's fix this. Also, what we demoed was that feedback funnel. Feedback funnels are incredibly important, and they can happen through the widget on the website, as well as through that conversational landing page where we're very specifically driving them to the feedback. But they can also leave their feedback through the widget. A big thing of what I do when I build chatbot solutions for government is I always bring the citizen back around to the option of leaving a rating and feedback, which most of them, or a good chunk of people, are willing to do because of how easy it is. And once they do it one time, they're very much more willing to do it a second time when they realize how simple that interaction is. And so with that, we can take that feedback and we can send it through our email notification system, which works great. But we also have the ability to send that data directly to a CRM if you're using it, and log that in real time. So we're very flexible with our solution and our ability to move data to where you need it and what you want to leverage it for. We also can connect to Google Analytics to get more of a fuller understanding of the website to chatbot interaction rates and stuff like that. But we have a lot of options analytically built in, and because we believe measurability is what truly allows you to move forward with these concepts in the solution. It's a big part of how we can say this is working and why it's working. And the proof is with quite literally the DMV in Montana has shown the biggest use case and absolute phenomenal results of a chatbot being used. So right now, in just 2 years, it's logged 400,000 chats, which, if you know anything about Montana, the population's 1 million, just over 1 million, and active drivers are 800,000. So in theory, about half of Montana residents that drive or deal with that have interacted with the system, which is unbelievable numbers. We've also reduced the call volume 15%, and this is just because people were simply finding what they needed to find. They used to hit the website, get totally freaked out, and call the phone number. Now the chatbot is walking them through all kinds of complex or simple services and helping them be prepared. Which is kind of the same thing as a community initiative. The same process is walking them through what they need and then seamlessly signing them up, instead of forcing them to call or email and them being the driver of the engagement instead of you helping them engage. And it has a 4 out of 5 rating, and which is actually pretty impressive, because one of the side effects of this chatbot is it captured all digital experiences. Even though it was asking for the rating for the chatbot experience, people would rate all experience. So vendors that would provide us appointment scheduler, or would provide other apps that we have no control over, Ben was collecting feedback on everything, because it was so easy to send that feedback. So what ended up happening is the DMV got a much more global view of all of their digital experience that they're offering to their citizens, just by simply adding a chatbot widget to the website. And it drove so much more understanding of where we were failing in communication and ways that the chatbot was actually improving significantly that experience. And then that evolved into the Montana Real ID website, which really does align kind of with this community initiative, because it was a public outreach campaign. In Montana, people don't have to get a real ID, it's a choice. So this is all part of a public outreach campaign. What we did is we made a website that combines the chat bot in almost every interaction. So if they click a web element, it opens a chat conversation from curated information and drives that user experience, that citizen experience through it. So calculating fees through an automated fee calculator, showing the documents they needed through an automated document checklist. All these things were driven off of the website into the chatbot, and we have just 60% interaction rate is unheard of in the public or private sector. You don't get those types of numbers, period. So the fact of the matter is this thing drives engagement beyond numbers that have been seen. And then also it leads to high completion rates. So I don't want to get too bogged down because I know we're running out of time and we want to get some questions in. So we're going to go to our summary and then open it up.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of just summarizing what we discussed, the way we view it, there's like a last mile communication problem in the way governments communicate with citizens. Web pages are broken, they're unintuitive, they're mobile, unoptimized, and they're unengaging. And that causes people to drop off in between their interest in a community initiative and their actual participation in it. And what we're doing is we're fixing that using our chatbot solution. So we are going to make the experience of going from interest to participation more intuitive, more engaging, and more mobile optimized. And I think with that, we are done with our presentation, and we'd love to hear from you guys.